Hello, I'm Kim Purcell, and today we're going to talk about dialogue and character and subtext. You're going to probably need to be sitting down, grabbing a pen, and you're going to be writing throughout. I encourage you to write scenes in your actual book, but we're going to be doing short dialogues. You can fill in the rest later. Strong dialogue reveals character. It shows a lot about who each character is by the words you choose, by exactly what they say, when they stay silent, and what they do while they're talking. Sometimes you can just show a tiny bit. You can keep your dialogue spare and then show reactions to that dialogue, and then we see a lot about character. Let me show you this one example from Tide in Time by Edna O'Brien. "Do you believe her?" she said. "Once said, it cannot be unsaid. That is the thing with words. You cannot wash them away and wipe them the way you wipe dishes," which was what she was doing, merely to cancel out the brutality of what she just said. 4 words, 4 treacheries. He said nothing, his anger taking a great inner lurch, and then he walked out of the kitchen, leaving the tap running. All right, so we literally have 4 words, but then we see so much about the characters. We see a lot about her, we see a lot about him. Now let's look at Harry Potter. I want you to look at the exact expressions your characters use, because that shows a lot about them too. We're going to look at this scene where Harry learns out he's a wizard. His uncle has brought him and his aunt and his cousin to this small island in the middle of a storm, and then we get Hagrid showing up. Now, I just also want to point out, if you can put your dialogues in an interesting location, it will automatically make them more interesting. So think about, is there danger in a particular location? Is there some weird place within the location that you could put your characters? This will really help the dialogue snap. So Hagrid, this half-giant, shows up and he says, "Oh, Harry, I'm so glad to talk to you and talk to you about Hogwarts." And he's like, "What's that?" And then Hagrid goes on and says, "Well, you know about your parents and how they're famous and you're famous." Harry knows nothing. And so this is where the dialogue starts. "You don't know what you are?" he said finally. Uncle Vernon suddenly found his voice. "Stop," he commanded. "Stop right there, sir. I forbid you to tell the boy anything." A braver man than Vernon Dursley would have quailed under the furious look Hagrid now gave him. Hagrid spoke. His every syllable trembled with rage. "You never told him? Never told him what was in the letter Dumbledore left for him? I was there. I saw Dumbledore leave it, Dursley. And you kept it from him all these years?" "Kept what from me?" said Harry eagerly. "Stop! I forbid you!" yelled Uncle Vernon in panic. Aunt Petunia gave a gasp of horror. "I go boil your heads, both of you," said Hagrid. "Harry, you're a wizard." Okay, so let's look at this really quickly. I want you to notice y and y as part of the dialect, and the way he talks makes us really love Hagrid. He's kind, he's down to earth, and he's very direct. Uncle Vernon is direct in a different way. Do you notice how he says "sir" and "I forbid you"? Now, this is pretty strange for a man to say to a man. It shows he has a sense of his own power. And so think about that too. The way that people talk. What does it say about their power or their confidence or their insecurity or their fears, whatever? What we say reflects that. And then, of course, we love the moment. "Go boil your heads." I love that expression so much I want to start using it. Just think about your characters. What are the expressions they love to use? I want you to notice y and y as part of the dialect. And the way he talks makes us really love Hagrid. He's kind, he's down to earth, and he's very direct. Uncle Vernon is direct in a different way. Do you notice how he says "sir" and "I forbid you"? Now, this is pretty strange for a man to say to a man. It shows he has a sense of his own power. And so think about that too. The way that people talk. What does it say about their power or their confidence or their insecurity or their fears, whatever? What we say reflects that. And then, of course, we love the moment. "Go boil your heads." I love that expression so much I want to start using it. So just think about your characters. What are the expressions they love to use? I'm going to remind you to put your dialogue in an unusual location because then it will really come alive. It's very hard to write a boring dialogue in the middle of a forest or as you're waiting on a ride. All right, pause me now and let's get started with writing the beginning of your chapter. Set a timer, write for 15 minutes. minutes. Okay, coming back now. All right. Strong dialogue also reveals information in the plot. We don't have any of that boring dialogue that exists in normal life. You just jump right into the middle of a conversation. Cut the beginning part, cut the end part, cut the introductions, cut the goodbyes, cut the small talk. Let's get to the meat. Right now, think of what information you want your dialogue to reveal. Let's look at this classic book, The Witches by Roald Dahl. In this particular scene, the grandma reveals to her grandkid how to identify a real witch. So pause me now and read this dialogue. Another element of strong dialogue is that it's tight. Cut those extra words. Every line has a purpose. It should also plant questions in the reader's mind and make them wonder. Now let's read this dialogue in The Rag and Bone Shop by Robert Cormier. This is how the book starts. So it's a little bit confusing, but it definitely plants questions. And there are clues in every line about what's going on. So we start to fill in the picture in our mind, and it definitely keeps us riveted. Pause me now to read this dialogue. Okay, I have an exercise for you now. You're going to start a scene with dialogue. We won't know who's talking, what they look like, where they are, but you're going to reveal at least 3 key details within the dialogue itself. Pause me now and give that a try. Now we're going to get into subtext. That's whatever is underneath. So first you need differentiated dialogue, which means you're showing who the characters are through the dialogue. All right, next you're going to advance the plot. Okay, and finally you want some subtext. And how do you do that? Well, part of it is through the desire line of all of the different characters. What does each of the characters want, and how does that conflict? Subtext is whatever's underneath. So what secrets they have, if they have conflicting desires but they don't want to say it. It's also how they feel about others in the scene. Their insecurities or their flaws might come out in that subtext. Their history with a person, how they really feel about them. So take a minute just to look at these questions and answer them quickly. Pause me now. Next, you're going to write a dialogue in which the character learns new facts and then has new questions, and therefore the reader will have new questions too. Pause me now. A big thing that a lot of people forget are the reactions to what people say. And now just think in your own life. When someone's talking, you're going to have a thought, you're going to have a feeling, you're going to react mentally before you speak. So same with your main character. Make sure you're showing that throughout the dialogue. Of course, you're also adding actions because they will physically respond. For more on that, watch one of my body language videos. That will really help. I highly recommend this book, The Art of Dramatic Writing by Lajos Egri. It's a classic. It focuses on playwriting, but that's all dialogue, and it really can inform your writing for your book. Basically, it breaks apart all these plays and looks at the subtext underneath the dialogue. Subtext can happen when people are trying to avoid a subject. Happens all the time. It should happen in your stories too. 2 kids are watching their parents fight. What did they talk about? A peanut butter sandwich. They're not talking about the fighting. Another case of subtext is when characters have opposing desires, and then they don't say what they want. Here's an example of that in Dear Martin by Nick Stone. You can pause me now and read. Another example of subtext is when people hide their emotions. Maybe they feel sad or fearful, but they hide it with anger. And now you can read this in Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. Pause me now. For all of the characters, it's good to look at the subtext. Think about all the characters, not just your main character. What secret are they hiding? What do they not want to say? Look at everybody in your scene, and that dialogue will really come alive. All right, here's another exercise. Write a dialogue with subtext. Your characters are going to avoid talking about something. Maybe they have opposing desires they don't want to say. Perhaps they're hiding a secret. Or maybe they're hiding their feelings with other feelings. Give it a try. Pause me now. All right, so that's the step-by-step dialogue workshop. I hope that helped you. Bye-bye, everyone.